The betrayal of SmurfBlossom. Like every year, around this time, the Girl Smurfs organized the Great Smurf Tree Games in Smurfy Grove, and just like every year, Smurfstorm is the best of all of them. But this year, she has a worthy adversary in the form of Hefty Smurf. This is the next to the last event, the gourd test. They're the last two left, gasped the crowd. If one of them misses their gourd, then it's all over. And look, Smurfstorm is going first. Smurfstorm grabbed the vine, swung across the void, and cracked the gourd as hard as she could with her stick. Hooray for Smurfstorm! She's done it again! Cheered the crowd. SmurfBlossom told Clumsy, "She really is my best friend. She really is the best every year. Every year she wins the trophy without anyone offering serious challenge. And we're the best of friends in the world, too. I can even smurf her all my little secrets. She'd never betray me. Believe me, your friend has no hope of beating her." "Oh?" gasped Clumsy Smurf. "Come on, SmurfBlossom. You mustn't count your Smurfs before they've hatched. It's Hefty Smurf's turn to try to bust the gourd," encouraged Smurfwillow. At the top of the tree, Hefty Smurf gulped. "I never had thought she could do it," he thought. "Those gourds are as long way off, and I'm not real used to this. But the honor of the Smurfs is at stake. No way am I backing out. That pain in the next Smurfstorm would be so happy. Just look at her waiting for me to fail down there." Well, as Papa Smurf would say, the Smurf has been cast. Hefty Smurf grabbed the vine and swung. "It's too short, I'll never make it," he thought. Brainy Smurf in the crowd thought to himself, "It looks like he didn't get enough momentum." SmurfBlossom said, "He's gonna miss it for sure. Smurfstorm's gonna win, again, just like she does every year." Smurfstorm smirked. But Hefty Smurf is resourceful, and in a desperate move, he throws his stick with all his might. It cracked the gourd in half. The crowd was astonished. "He cheated!" yelled Smurfstorm. "No rule kept him from doing that, Smurfstorm," reminded Smurfwillow. Smurfstorm said, "Bah, he'll get what's coming to him. I'll beat him on the last event." "Hey, Smurfwillow, what exactly is the final event?" asked Hefty Smurf. "It's the hardest one. It requires balance, speed, and intelligence," said Willow. "In fact, it's rather simple. You must smurf from one post to the next without falling in the water, then pass under the waterfall and come out the other side to return to the beach. You'll have noticed that there are 2 rows of posts in the water leading to the waterfall, but there's only 1 row coming out of the waterfall." Hefty Smurf looked on in astonishment. "So, you have to be the first to the waterfall, or make the other one fall to be able to pass through it." "Exactly," said Smurfwillow. "And to help you, you get a crook. Here's yours." She handed him a crooked stick. "And this thing works?" said Hefty. "Oh, that. We don't know. We've never needed to come to this test. Smurfstorm's always won beforehand," said Smurfwillow. And with that, Hefty and Storm jumped onto the post in the water. And they're off. More at ease, Smurfstorm, having done this before, takes the lead. But Hefty Smurf soon catches up with her. And they arrive at the waterfall at the same time. SmurfStorm starts the hostilities straight away, darting Hefty Smurf with a nasty look. "Hey," said Hefty. "I don't have anything against you," said Storm, "but this here is my home, and I'm not letting you win." "We'll see about that. The best Smurf wins," growled Hefty. Suddenly, Hefty Smurf slips on the moss-covered post. Surprised, he lets go of his crooked stick, which then hits SmurfStorm straight in the head, which causes her to fall too. Both of the Smurfs went tumbling into the water. "That doesn't count. You caused me to fall by accident," said SmurfStorm. "Falling is falling. We're tied," said Hefty. "Ooh, did you see that?" gasped SmurfBlossom. SmurfStorm said, "Well, you saw it too. He fell first." Hefty said, "Oh, not at all. No way, no way." The crowd just exploded with questions. SmurfBlossom running towards the water. "No, there. Look at the waterfall. There's almost no water left. Is it drying up?" The waterfall started to began to dry. "Look, the water levels are dropping right before our eyes," gasped the girl Smurfs. "What could be causing this, Smurfwillow?" asked SmurfBlossom. "I don't have the slightest idea, but I find this smurfily worrying." "Council meeting now. We need to talk about this," said Smurfwillow. "Hey, wait," said SmurfStorm. "We still haven't decided who won the contest." SmurfBlossom said, "We couldn't just smurf that, you tied. We have to recognize that Hefty Smurf is about as good as you." "What?" snapped SmurfStorm. "What's gotten into you, SmurfBlossom? You've gone crazy, I say. Crazy, or even worse." "That's it. SmurfBlossom is in love with Hefty Smurf." "Ha ha 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 ha. That's too funny," taunted Storm. "Hee hee hee hee." All the girls laughed. SmurfBlossom blushed. Then she ran away in tears. The only one who noticed was Hefty and Clumsy. "Bah, let her go. Smurf by herself. Smurfwillow's waiting on the rest of us for the council meeting," said SmurfStorm. Clumsy followed after Blossom. "SmurfBlossom, where are you?" he said. SmurfBlossom was crying alone in the forest. "Oh, there you are," he said. "Come now. She didn't mean to hurt your feelings." SmurfBlossom snapped, "Of course she did. I thought she was my friend, but she humiliated me in front of everybody. I'll never forgive her." Meanwhile, at the council meeting, Smurfwillow on her throne, and the rest of the girls in the audience with Hefty. "Hey, how did you straighten your hair?" "Oh, you'll never guess," murmured the crowd. "It seems SmurfBlossom is in love with Hefty," whispered all the Smurfs throughout the council chamber. "All right, now a little quiet. We're here to talk about the water disappearing," said Willow. "I think all the animals drank it all, Smurfwillow," gasped one of the girls. "Or is that the trolls smurfed all the water?" said Sloppy. "Oh, you've seen trolls in the water?" gasped one of the girls. "Maybe the water smurfed into the sky," said another. "Could it be nuclear testing?" "The what?" The crowd didn't know what to think. Willow said, "Enough. Okay, I think the best way will be to go see for ourselves why the water is smurfing up. I volunteer to smurf up to the river to see what's going on," said Hefty. "That's very kind Hefty Smurf, but we don't need boy Smurfs to solve our problems. Very kind of you, Hefty Smurf, but we don't need boy Smurfs to solve our problems, said Smurfstorm. Willow said, on the contrary, that's an excellent idea, Smurfstorm. Remember, our motto is Smurf lies in unity. Willow said, pick a team, Hefty. You'll head out tomorrow morning, and take those two with you. She pointed to Clumsy and Blossom as they walked in. I don't like Smurfs being late for a council meeting. The next day, Hefty and his team assembled on the dry riverbed. Good luck and be careful, said Willow. You should surely find the answer to your questions by following the dry riverbed. Full of courage and adventure, the Smurfs leave on their mission. Be careful, that's a good one. Why doesn't she just go herself? Exclaimed SmurfBlossom as she lagged behind the group. Smurfstorm heard this. You only have yourself to smurf. You haven't arrived at the council meeting late, you wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't have to put up with your presence. Blah, 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 said Blossom. Look out, with all that grimacing, your sweetheart might end up finding you ugly, said Storm, in a mocking, teasing way. Clumsy Smurf said, Hey Hefty, I didn't know you were in love with SmurfBlossom. Brainy chimed in, Come on, Clumsy Smurf, don't pester him with that. We must respect Hefty Smurf's privacy. Hefty snapped back, You're going to stop this, right? I Smurfly have nothing to smurf with all of that. I'm not in love with anybody. SmurfBlossom said, That's true. SmurfBlossom's the one who's in bonkers in love over all those muscles and that little heart-shaped tattoo. All the Smurfs giggled. SmurfBlossom was enraged. Later that evening, Brr, it's so cold in this forbidden forest. It smurfs me and creeps me out when it gets dark, said Clumsy Smurf. Come on, Clumsy, Brainy said. Don't be such a chicken. What will the girls think of us? Smurf my example. Composure and self-control are my... Wah! Just then, Brainy Smurf jumped a mile high. All the Smurfs laughed. It was actually just Hefty Smurf poking him with a branch. I'm telling Papa Smurf, Brainy said. I'm sorry, Brainy Smurf, but I couldn't resist, said Hefty. So, SmurfBlossom, no laughing at your sweetheart's pranks? Teased Smurfstorm. Your foolishness doesn't amuse me at all. I'm sleepy, said Blossom. And once and for all, I'm not in love. Early the next morning, the Smurfs set out again. But the hours pass without our friends discovering anything at all. Hefty Smurf, is it far away still? We've been smurfing for 2 days now, said Clumsy. Yes, if this goes on, I'm going to go back to the village, said Blossom. Hefty Smurf said, out of the question. Smurf Willow gave us a mission, so we're staying together until... Hey, come look, Storm said from a distance. What is it? Did you smurf something, Smurfstorm? Said Hefty. Look, these tracks. They're everywhere, she said. They're fresh. Do you know what it could be? Hard to say. Vaguely familiar to me, she said. In any case, it means whoever left them is nearby, so let's keep an eye out, she said. Filled with tension, the group heads out again. Did you see that? Do you think those rocks are blocking the river? Said Clumsy. A large pile of rocks laid in the middle of the riverbed. No, clumsy Smurf, said Brainy. Do you think that little pile of rocks could back up a whole river? There's only one way to find out, said Hefty as he started to climb up. Yep, said Smurf Storm as she followed him. Hang in there. It's not that high, said Hefty as everybody began to climb. Huff and puff. Brainy was struggling. I should have shut my Smurf when I said little pile of stones as he sweated to the top. For once, though, you were right, Brainy Smurf, said Storm. That's what's smurfing up the river. But what is it? I haven't the faintest idea. It was a large dam, built of wood and twigs. It was enormous. But it's a house. Look at all those holes. They're like windows, said Hefty Smurf. Look out, get down, shouted Smurf Storm as she pushed Hefty to the ground. It's growlers. Large, furry, purple, werewolf-type creatures lurked in the distance. So it was their tracks that we saw, said Hefty. I should have figured those dirty beasts already caused us problems smurfing our squash before, said Storm. Look out, let's not stay here, they may suspect something. The growlers began tilting their heads and sniffing. Quick, said Brainy Smurf, we have to get back to the village before they spot us. All the Smurfs climbed down the rocks as fast as they could. Wait, Brainy Smurf, not so fast, said Storm. We mustn't stay here, it's dangerous, said Brainy. And I say we're old enough to decide for ourselves what must be done, said Storm. Come on, Smurf Storm, be reasonable. There's way too many of them, said one of the girls. There, I just knew all of your bragging was just for show, Storm said as she pointed at the crowd. Are you coming with me, girls? We'll show these boys. She egged on the girls. Well, I don't know, said the girls. Okay, I get it. And I won't even ask you, SmurfBlossom. Follow your sweetheart, she taunted. So you can all get lost, I'll go alone, Smurf Storm said as she scurried away. Smurf Storm, wait, said Hefty. Come on, Hefty Smurf, we can't stay here, let's rejoin the others, said Brainy as he grabbed his arm. Blossom was just still mad. Grrr, she thought. I'm fed up with those sarcastic remarks from that awful Smurf Storm. I gotta do something to make it stop. I'll follow her and find a way to make her regret her words, Blossom thought as she followed Storm, unbeknownst to her. Unaware she was being followed, Storm quietly sneaks towards the growler's nest. In the meantime, the rest of the group hurries to alert the village. What's wrong, Hefty Smurf? You don't look happy, asked Clumsy. I shouldn't have let Smurf Storm go off by herself. I have a bad feeling, said Hefty. And indeed, a dramatic event is about to happen. Blossom hid behind a tree, and she thought, what is Storm doing? It looks like she's climbing up a tree. That is what Storm was doing. This may be my chance to pay her back by playing a bad trick on her, thought Blossom. From the top of the tree, on a very high branch, Storm thought, from here, I can smurf the comings and goings of the growlers around their nest. There must be some way to destroy that thing. Entirely preoccupied, Smurf Storm doesn't sense the presence coming up behind her. Crack! It was Blossom. And she was adding more weight to the branch by walking on it. SmurfBlossom, what are you doing here? Smurf Storm said. Well, I stammered Blossom. Careful, back up. Your weight, the branch might... Just then the branch cracked. Smurf storm, shouted Blossom. But before SmurfBlossom could make the slightest move, SmurfStorm disappeared. I don't see her anymore. SmurfStorm, SmurfStorm, do you hear me? Answer me. Oh no, what have I done? Blossom cried. But the incident hadn't gone unnoticed by the growlers either. They tilted their heads at the noise from the distance. Quick, quick, quick! Blossom hurried down the tree. I hope nothing's happened to her. I'll blame myself for the rest of my life. But the growlers had surrounded the bush that SmurfStorm had fell into. If I stay here, they might find me, Blossom thought. And she began to run away. Much later, at the girls' village. Do you think they'll be back? Said one of the guards. Ha, who knows? Maybe they got eaten by a gobble-all, said the other guard. Hey, over there! She pointed to the team rushing towards the village gates. Smurf, shouted the guard. They're back. You're finally here, said Willow. I was starting to smurf myself sick. Hefty said, we ran the whole way back to warn you. The girls chugged water in the distance. What happened to you? What did you discover? Said Willow. The growlers, it's them. They've smurfed an enormous nest right in the middle of the river and blocked its course. Against my advice, SmurfStorm decided to remain behind to observe them. I know we weren't done with those growlers, smurfed Willow. Hey, where's SmurfBlossom? Said one of the girls. But I thought she'd come back with us, said Hefty. I haven't seen her since we left SmurfStorm, said one of the girls. I thought she was behind you, said another. She wasn't behind you, smurfed another. For Smurf's sake, we absolutely must go back. They may be in danger, said Hefty. Out of the question. You're exhausted, and night will fall soon. Get some rest. You'll leave first thing in the morrow, Willow said. That night, alone somewhere in the forbidden forest, SmurfBlossom broods over the day's events. SmurfStorm has disappeared. How could I abandon my best friend? How did it come to this, she thought. I absolutely must find her again. Then at daybreak, there's the bush SmurfStorm fell into, she thought, and then she heard a loud crack in the distance. The growlers, she thought. If they think I'll let myself smurf without a fight, shh, we're getting close to their nest. Not a peep, those beasts have smurfly keen hearing, said Hefty. My friends, it's you, you came back, Blossom said as she saw Willow and Hefty along with the girl smurfs all coming around the tree. If you only knew what happened. First she fell in the bush, and then there were growlers everywhere, and I was alone in the forest at night, and Blossom stammered. Slow down, SmurfBlossom. We're happy to see you're all right, said Willow. Catch your breath and tell us everything calmly. But that's what I'm trying to do. So hard to smurf you, said Blossom. She climbed into the tree to observe the growlers, and then boom, she fell, and I didn't see her again, said Blossom. Fell from a tree? But that's impossible, not SmurfStorm, said Hefty. Show us where it happened, said Willow. Come on, fellow. Follow me. But quietly, because it's dangerous, said Blossom. She disappeared there, in that bush. You see that the growlers are everywhere, said Blossom. I can't believe she fell from that tree, said Hefty. That's right, ordinarily she's so agile. What happened, said Willow. Stammered Blossom. Well, I decided to remain behind and help her, and I was behind her and I saw the branch crack, and that's it, said Blossom. Blossom lied. The whole story is a bit strange, said Willow. We'll have to clear this all up later. Enough talk. Smurfstorm may be hurt. I'm going to see if she's still in that bush, said Hefty. Wait, it could be dangerous. Someone will go with you, said Willow. I'll pass, unseen, more easily if I go alone, said Hefty. The bush is only a few Smurf leaps away. But with all those growlers, thought Hefty, I'll crawl through the high grass, concealing myself under this branch. I hope they don't look too closely in my direction. Do you see that? He made it to that bush. Let's hope the growlers don't find him, said Blossom. In the bush, Hefty saw a deep hole. No, Smurfstorm, but what's that hole? He's coming back without Smurfstorm, said Blossom. A few moments later, Hefty Smurf rejoins his friends. There's a big hole in that deep bush. Smurfstorm is surely inside there. We must go rescue her, said Hefty. You're right, but with the growler nest close by, that's impossible, said Willow. Our only solution is to go at night, said Willow. Bring me vines. Lots of vines. We're going to smurf along rope, said Willow. That's just fine, but how will we see clearly down there without lighting and a torch alerting the growlers, said Hefty. I've thought of that, Hefty Smurf, said Willow. She whistled. Say hello to my friends, the fireflies. Fireflies swarmed around Willow and Hefty. That night, tiny Smurfy silhouettes sneak along quietly. Gulp. Are you sure the growlers are asleep? Hissed Brainy Smurf. Shh, one of the girls said. Thanks for agreeing to go down, Hefty Smurf, said Willow. Smurfstorm would surely have done the same for me, said Hefty. Go ahead, leave him. Lower him carefully. Very, very carefully, said Willow. Hefty began to lower into the hole. Now, the time brings one of SmurfWillow's little friends, the firefly. Come on, beautiful, shine your brightest. Oh, there, a bit of cloth caught on the roof. Likely a piece of Smurfstorm's dress. Darn, it's impossible to go lower. The rope is too short, and I still don't see the bottom. There's only one solution. Cut the rope and jump blindly, thought Hefty. All right, be brave, Hefty Smurf. Up at the top of the hole. That's the end of the rope, SmurfWillow. We must bring Hefty Smurf back up, or else, cried Brainy Smurf. Hey! The rope snapped back and all the Smurfs fell down. What happened? The rope's been cut. Poor Hefty Smurf must have fallen to the bottom of the hole, said Willow. And indeed, a few yards lower, Hefty sat in a puddle at the bottom of the hole. What a fall! Luckily there was this puddle of water to break my fall. Oh no, the fireflies are getting away, said Hefty Smurf. There's one left, otherwise I'd be without light, he said. There's Smurfstorm's flower. She must have dropped it in this tunnel. Hefty began to go into a tunnel. Later, he's been crawling in the tunnel for a long time, and he still doesn't see anything. The sun must have risen outside, he thought. Down there, a dim gleam just in time for my fireflies, exhausted. I'll soon be without light. What could be behind that opening, thought Hefty, but it looks like... Shh. A figure crept up behind Hefty and put a hand over his mouth. "What will we do, Smurf Willow?" said one of the girls. "Yes, now that Hefty Smurf has disappeared too," said Brainy. "The best solution is to smurf one problem after the other," Willow said. "I'm sure SmurfStorm and your friend can look after themselves while we solve the problem caused by the growlers," said Willow. Sorry, Papa Smurf always says we can never abandon Smurf in danger, and that," went on Brainy Smurf. "Yes, well, your Papa Smurf isn't here, so we'll do as I say," barked Willow. "Okay," said Brainy. Okay. "But how, Smurf Willow? There's a lot of them, and they're stronger than us," said one of the girls. "We could smurf their nest on fire," said Brainy. "Good idea," said Blossom. No way we will risk one of them getting hurt. And who knows, maybe there are babies," said Willow. Make your brain smurf. There must be some way to get rid of them without too much damage," said Willow. "We know how." Just then, Hefty and Storm, arm in arm, came around the tree. "SmurfStorm!" shouted the girls. "You're back! We Smurfily were worried," said Brainy. "How did you get out?" they questioned. "Thanks for bringing our friend back, Hefty Smurf," said Willow. "What, SmurfStorm? You're injured?" "It's not serious, just a sprain," said Storm. "Well, tend to that. We're all happy to see you're safe and Smurf," said Willow. "Everyone? Are you sure of that?" Blossom cowered in the distance. "What do you mean?" said Willow. "That I didn't fall into that hole by accident," said Storm. "SmurfBlossom's the one who caused me to fall," accused Storm as she pointed at Blossom. "Oh!" gasped the Smurfs. "SmurfBlossom, that's impossible. Say something," Blossom cried. I'm sorry." "Did you hear that?" gasped the crowd. "She pushed SmurfStorm, it seems." "Come back, explain yourself," said Willow. Blossom ran away in tears. "Shh, she's sniffling. Leave her be, Smurf Willow. She'll come back," said Storm. "I can't believe she'd do such a thing. That's just not like her," said Willow. "Let's talk about important stuff instead. I know we can smurf the rest of those dirty growler beasts," said the Storm. "Oh, tell us," said Willow. "Although my fall was softened by the bush, I wasn't able to walk," said Storm. "But I couldn't stay there because I could hear the growlers getting closer. So I snuck into a little tunnel, and after crawling for a while, I saw an opening. And guess what? It opened directly into the interior of the growler's nest. I stayed hidden there observing them and coming and going for hours, and I noticed a strange detail about their behavior. They seem to attach a great deal of importance to a huge tree whose solidarity they tested regularly." "I see where you're going," said Willow. "You think that the tree is supporting that whole structure? So if we break it, the whole nest will collapse? And to get that trunk, you're planning to use the little tunnel at the bottom of the hole, is that right?" said Willow. "Exactly, Smurf Willow," said Storm. "There's still a problem of the growlers, though," said Willow. "Brainy Smurf had a good idea for that," said Storm. "Me? Yes, well, of course, just like usual," said Brainy. "But what was my idea again?" he said. "You suggested setting the nest on fire, no?" "Out of the question, it's too dangerous," said Willow. Why not smoke them out? If we lit a fire the direction of the wind, the smoke will fill the nest, and the growlers will have no other choice but to flee from it. We'll be free to chop the tree trunk down. Excellent idea. Go smurf wood and moss. Lots of moss, said Willow. Come on, Hefty Smurf, let's go smurf that nest, said Storm. The Smurfs ran off to gather moss and wood. No way, Smurf Storm, you stay here, you're injured, said Willow. That's not fair, Smurf Willow, it's my idea, I have the right to go there. Anyhow, apart from Hefty Smurf, I'm the only one who knows how to get back there. Exactly. He's the one who'll go to the nest and destroy the trunk, and Brainy Smurf will accompany him. That's it, said Willow. Me? Are you sure, Smurf Willow? Stammered Brainy. I'm furious. I'm the one who did everything, and she's keeping me from going to kick the growlers' butts, said Storm. Wait, let me see to this, said Hefty. Brainy Smurf, come here a sec. That's perfect. The wind's smurfing in the right direction. It'll push the smoke right towards the growler's nest, said Willow. And don't be stingy with the moss. There's lots and lots of smoke that we need to make. Our Smurf friends must have arrived by now at the tunnel, the entrance, right? Willow thought. Just then she saw Brainy Smurf. Brainy Smurf, she said, what are you doing here, and where's Smurfstorm? Brainy stammered. Not far away. Hefty laughed. I'd dearly love to see Brainy Smurf's face right now. Smurfstorm said. You gotta admit, you didn't leave him much choice by threatening to tell everyone he still sleeps with his binky, said Storm. I'm ashamed, said Hefty. There's that opening that let us get out of the tunnel, said Hefty. We just have to backtrack to the growler's nest, said Storm. One moment. Let's make some axes first, or else what will we smurf down that much talked about trunk with? Let's hurry. The others have already lit the fire. It's time to go. We got to smurf those growlers a lesson. But as our friends are entering the cave, a pair of eyes observes them. Once they have disappeared, the silhouette quietly comes out of its hiding place and takes the same path. Meanwhile, Operation Smokeout continues. Come on, smurf me that fire stronger, shouts Willow. And it's not long before an enormous cloud of black smoke reaches the growler's nest. They sniff and cough and don't like it at all. In the nest, the growlers run for their lives. Careful, be ready, we'll have to smurf fast. Will your foot be all right, said Hefty. Yes, it almost doesn't hurt anymore, said Storm. With the kerchief covering our nose, we'll be able to breathe more easy. Taking advantage of the mayhem and the smoke screen, our friends quickly sneak to their goal. Come on, let's go, said Hefty. And without wasting a moment, they set to work chopping down the tree. But outside, there's an unexpected turn of events. Smurfwillow, look! It looks like the wind is changing direction, said one of the girls. It's a catastrophe, Smurf. Our whole plan is ruined, said Willow. The wind's blowing the smoke away from the growler's nest, said one of the girls. Smurfstorm, Hefty Smurf, we've got to get them out of there, said Brainy. Unaware of the danger, our two friends continue to work, hacking down the tree. Hey, Smurfstorm, have you noticed the smoke is gone, said Hefty. There was supposed to be some until we finish this trunk. I think we have other problems, said Smurfstorm. We have company. The growlers are surrounding them. And they don't look happy. The growlers growled. Come on, SmurfStorm, there's too many of them, said Hefty. He tried to pull her away from the tree, but she kept chopping. No, we are not running. We came to smurf this trunk, said Storm. They're attacking. The growlers are moving closer and growling. We're surrounded. If the cavalry's coming, now's the time, said Hefty. It was a pleasure to know you, SmurfStorm. He gulped. Hey, are you and SmurfBlossom really sweethearts, said Storm. Suddenly, Blossom, screaming from out of nowhere with the big stick. What? It's her. What's she doing here, said Storm. I was hoping for a better cavalry, said Hefty. At first, the growlers seemed very disconcerted with this intervention. But their confusion doesn't last long. They smacked Blossom to the ground, and she dropped her stick and cried, ouch. SmurfBlossom, why did you follow us? You foolishly put yourself in danger, said Hefty. Probably to smurf a dirty trick on us again on the sly, said Storm. I thought you might need help, so when I saw the growlers, but clearly I've made things worse. I'm truly good for nothing, said Blossom as she cried. Come on, don't say that, Hefty comforted. Storm was just exasperated. Hey, I don't mean to bother you, but let me remind you there are growlers all around us, said Storm. But suddenly, just when our three friends' fate seemed settled, crack, weakened by the axe blows and destabilized by the weight of the growlers, the trunk abruptly gives way. Look out, shouted SmurfStorm. We did it. Look at them, smurfing for their lives, says Storm. Come on, we mustn't stay here. The water's already starting to get in, said Hefty. Quick, let's escape via the tunnel before... Ow, my ankle, cried Storm. Wait, I'll go help her, said Hefty. Suddenly, a flood of water came and took Storm away. SmurfStorm, no, they cried. Gulp, gulp, help, said Storm. Tossed about like a wisp of straw, SmurfStorm can do nothing against the violence of this surge and bonks her head on a rock as the water gets deeper. Knocked out by the shock, she slowly sinks to the depth of the river. But suddenly, Blossom comes to the rescue. They reach the surface and grasp for air. If the current's too strong, it's dragging us. I won't be able to smurf much longer, Blossom screamed. Storm was unconscious. Let's go, said Willow. Go, girls. Make a chain to help the Smurfs. SmurfBlossom, grab this quick. Hefty and Brainy put a branch into the river. Come on, Smurf, as hard as you can. All the Smurfs tried to pull the girls out of the river. And finally they made it. SmurfBlossom, are you okay? Said Brainy. Quick, look after SmurfStorm, cried Willow. The growlers have run, and their nest is destroyed, said one of the girls. Thanks to them. Wait, Clumsy Smurf, let me do that, Brainy said as he saw Clumsy trying to give CPR first aid to Storm. I'm sorry, it's all my fault, cried Blossom. If I hadn't let my anger get the best of me, none of this would have happened, and I betrayed my best friend as I feel really stupid, said Blossom. Well, I say you were smurfily brave, said Hefty. Who tried to help us by herself when we were surrounded by those growlers? And when SmurfStorm got swept away by the flood, you didn't hesitate one moment before smurfing into the water to save her. You even risked your life for her. It's true, SmurfBlossom. Without you, SmurfStorm would surely have drowned, said Willow. You think so, Smurfwillow? Said Blossom. Pow. You just try and do mouth-to-mouth on me one more time, you four-eyed maggot, said Storm, as Brainy sat recovering from the punch. Well, Smurf then. But that's what was written in my first aid manual, said Brainy. I heard everything, Hefty Smurf said to you, SmurfBlossom. And listen, I don't really... It's okay. Spare me your excuses, said Storm. I think I got a little carried away myself. I shouldn't have let myself smurfed by jealousy. The two friends hugged. I'm really sorry. Me too. You always be my best friend. Yes. Nothing and nobody can ever smurf our friendship. Yay, they made up, cried the crowd. And to think we nearly ruined all of this. Yes, and for what? Over a smurf with a few more muscles than others? What foolishness, the two girls giggled. But, geez, what did I do, said Hefty. Come on, Hefty Smurf. Don't be offended. You know, you still have lots to learn and understand about Smurf. Supposing you ever do learn one day, because I myself still wonder sometimes, said Willow. The important thing is the water is flowing towards our village again, and that SmurfStorm and SmurfBlossom are friends again, don't you think, said Willow. That's right, said Brainy. Excuse me, but there's still one question remaining. Hefty Smurf and SmurfBlossom, were they in love or not? Hefty Smurf, I'm telling Papa Smurf, as he flew through the air, because Hefty always tosses Brainy on his head. The end. I really enjoyed this spark. The betrayal of SmurfBlossom.